Imagine a time when the color of your skin determined your place in society. A time when drinking from the wrong water fountain could land you in jail. This was America not so long ago, but behind the struggle and strife, there were stories of courage, resilience, and mystery that fueled the fight for equality. Welcome to Discover Past. Today, we will discuss the American Civil Rights Movement, a journey through history filled with suspense and untold stories that shaped our nation. From the dusty streets of Montgomery to the hallowed halls of Washington, D.C., the Civil Rights Movement was a battleground for justice. But behind the well-known events and figures, there are secrets waiting to be uncovered. Today, we delve deep into the heart of this monumental struggle, revealing hidden truths and intriguing tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Who were the hidden heroes behind the movement? What were the covert strategies that led to landmark victories? And what were the mysteries that still remain unsolved? Join us as we explore the American Civil Rights Movement, a saga of bravery, strategy, and resilience that changed the course of history. Stay with us till the end to discover a shocking revelation about one of the movement's most pivotal moments, an untold story that history books left out.
With the introduction in place, the next step is to dive into the historical background. This will provide context and set up the subsequent sections. To understand the civil rights movement, we must first travel back to the early 20th century, a time when segregation was the law of the land in America. The infamous Jim Crow laws ensured that African Americans were treated as second-class citizens, subjected to systemic discrimination in every aspect of life. But even in these dark times, seeds of resistance were being sown. Visionaries like W.E.B. Du Bois and Ida B. Wells began to challenge the status quo, laying the groundwork for a movement that would one day shake the foundations of American society. Organizations like the NAACP were founded to fight for justice through legal means, and the cultural renaissance in Harlem sparked a newfound pride and solidarity among African Americans. World War II marked a turning point. African American soldiers fought bravely for freedom overseas, only to return home to a country that still denied them basic rights. This hypocrisy fueled a growing demand for change, setting the stage for a new wave of activism that would soon sweep across the nation. Another significant development was the Great Migration, where millions of African Americans moved from the rural South to urban areas in the North. This massive shift not only transformed the social dynamics of cities, but also created vibrant communities that became hotbeds of activism and cultural expression. The foundation for the civil rights movement was being built, brick by brick, as African Americans fought for a better future. Next, we'll move on to the rise of the movement, detailing the formation of key organizations and the emergence of prominent leaders.
As America entered the 1950s, the winds of change began to blow. The post-war economic boom brought prosperity to many, but for African Americans, the promise of the American dream remained out of reach. This growing disparity sparked the rise of a movement that would soon captivate the nation. Several organizations played pivotal roles in this burgeoning movement. The NAACP continued its legal battles against segregation, achieving a landmark victory in 1954 with the Supreme Court's decision in Brown v. Board of Education, which declared school segregation unconstitutional. Meanwhile, the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, founded by Martin Luther King Jr. and other ministers, organized grassroots efforts to combat injustice. At the heart of these efforts were charismatic leaders who inspired millions. Martin Luther King Jr., with his powerful oratory and philosophy of nonviolence, became the face of the movement. Rosa Parks, whose refusal to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus ignited a citywide boycott, and Malcolm X, whose fiery rhetoric challenged the status quo and advocated for Black empowerment, were among the many who risked their lives for equality. Integral to the success of the movement were the women who played critical roles behind the scenes. Ella Baker, a grassroots organizer and advocate for participatory democracy, was instrumental in forming the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Her emphasis on local leadership and collective action helped shape the direction of the movement. Septima Clark, known for her tireless work in education and voter registration, empowered countless African Americans through her citizenship schools. Their contributions were vital in galvanizing communities and advancing the cause of civil rights.
Next, we will cover major events and milestones that were critical to the success of the civil rights movement. In the early 1960s, the movement gained momentum with the sit-ins and freedom rides. Inspired by a group of students in Greensboro, North Carolina, who refused to leave a segregated lunch counter, sit-ins spread across the South, challenging segregation in public spaces. Meanwhile, the Freedom Riders, organized by CORE, rode interstate buses into the segregated South to test Supreme Court rulings that outlawed segregation in interstate transportation. Facing brutal violence and arrests, these activists drew national attention and forced the federal government to take action. On August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. It was one of the largest demonstrations for human rights in U.S. history. The event was a powerful display of unity and resolve, showcasing a broad coalition of civil rights organizations, labor unions, and religious groups. The highlight of the day was Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, a stirring call for an end to racism and a vision of a racially integrated and harmonious America. But Dr. King was not the only speaker to address the crowd. The march also featured speeches from other prominent leaders, including John Lewis, then chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, who spoke passionately about the need for voting rights and equality. Philip Randolph, the chief organizer of the event and a leading labor activist, delivered a powerful address on the importance of economic justice and equal employment opportunities. In addition to the speeches, the march included stirring performances by notable artists. Singer Mahalia Jackson, known for her powerful gospel voice, uplifted the crowd with her moving renditions of civil rights anthems. Folk singer Joan Baez and popular singer and actor Harry Belafonte also performed, adding to the day's cultural and emotional impact. The diversity of speakers and performers at the March on Washington underscored the widespread support for civil rights and highlighted the intersectionality of the struggle for justice. The event not only showcased the broad coalition backing the movement, but also drew national and international attention to the ongoing fight for racial equality, pushing civil rights to the forefront of the American consciousness. The activism and sacrifices of the movement led to significant legislative victories. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. The following year, the Voting Rights Act was passed, eliminating barriers to voting for African Americans, especially in the South. These laws were monumental steps towards equality, but the struggle for civil rights was far from over. Next, we'll cover key figures and their contributions, providing detailed profiles of influential leaders and their roles. Key figures and their contributions. Martin Luther King Jr. is perhaps the most iconic figure of the civil rights movement. A Baptist minister and advocate of non-violent resistance, King's leadership was instrumental in the success of numerous campaigns. His speeches, particularly the renowned "I Have a Dream" speech delivered during the 1963 March on Washington, resonated with millions and became a defining moment in the movement. King's commitment to peaceful protest and civil disobedience, inspired by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, set the foundation for the movement's strategy. His efforts were pivotal in mobilizing public opinion and garnering legislative support, culminating in landmark achievements such as the Selma to Montgomery marches. These marches were crucial in highlighting the struggle for voting rights and were instrumental in the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a cornerstone in the fight for racial equality. Contrasting with Martin Luther King Jr.'s approach, Malcolm X offered a different perspective on achieving racial justice. As a prominent spokesperson for the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X was known for his powerful oratory and uncompromising stance on black empowerment and self-reliance. His emphasis on black pride, self-defense, and critique of systemic racism spoke to many African Americans frustrated by the slow pace of change. Initially, Malcolm X's views were at odds with the nonviolent philosophy of King, but his journey led him to a broader understanding of the need for solidarity among all oppressed people. His transformation and growing advocacy for human rights, following his pilgrimage to Mecca, marked a significant shift in his approach and highlighted his evolving vision for racial justice. Beyond the well-known leaders, numerous lesser-known figures made profound contributions to the civil rights movement. Ella Baker, an influential behind-the-scenes organizer, was a key figure in the formation of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Baker's emphasis on grassroots organizing and leadership development empowered countless individuals and groups, fostering a decentralized approach that strengthened the movement's base. Fannie Lou Hamer, a courageous sharecropper turned activist, brought national attention to the struggles of African American voters in the Deep South. Her powerful testimony before the Democratic National Convention in 1964 highlighted the injustices faced by black voters and galvanized support for voting rights reform. Bayard Rustin, an openly gay man and master strategist, played a crucial role in organizing the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. As a close advisor to Martin Luther King Jr., Rustin's expertise in nonviolent protest and civil disobedience was instrumental in shaping the movement's strategies and successes. John Lewis, a young activist and prominent leader of the SNCC, became known for his fearless commitment to civil rights. His involvement in the Freedom Rides, which challenged segregation in interstate travel, and his leadership in the Selma marches demonstrated his dedication and bravery. Lewis's enduring legacy continues to inspire future generations. Diane Nash, a key figure in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, was instrumental in the Nashville sit-ins, which were pivotal in desegregating lunch counters. Her leadership in coordinating these nonviolent protests and her commitment to civil rights activism played a significant role in the success of the movement. These individuals, along with countless others, contributed their talents, courage, and dedication to advancing the cause of civil rights. Their collective efforts were essential in challenging racial injustice and pushing for a more equitable society. Next, we'll explore opposition and challenges, detailing the resistance faced by the movement and how activists overcame these obstacles.
Opposition and challenges. The civil rights movement faced fierce opposition from segregationists determined to maintain the status quo. White supremacist groups, such as the Ku Klux Klan, used violence and intimidation to terrorize activists and their supporters. Bombings, lynchings, and brutal attacks were tragically common. Despite these dangers, activists remained steadfast in their pursuit of justice. Tragic events marked the struggle for civil rights. In 1963, a bomb planted by white supremacists exploded at the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, killing 4 young girls and injuring many others. The murder of civil rights leader Medgar Evers outside his home in Mississippi shocked the nation. The Selma to Montgomery marches in 1965, particularly Bloody Sunday, where peaceful protesters were brutally attacked by state troopers, highlighted the violent resistance faced by activists. These horrific incidents galvanized public support and spurred legislative action. The response from the government and law enforcement varied. While local authorities often resisted desegregation efforts and supported segregationists, the federal government sometimes intervened to uphold civil rights. Presidents like John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson played crucial roles in advancing civil rights legislation. Federal intervention, such as the deployment of troops to protect the Little Rock Nine and the passage of the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts, was essential in overcoming local resistance and enforcing the law.
Next, we'll discuss the role of media in shaping public opinion and supporting the movement. The media played a pivotal role in the civil rights movement, bringing the realities of segregation and the struggles of African Americans into living rooms across the country. Television and print media helped to sway public opinion and garner support for the movement. Images and broadcasts from the civil rights movement left an indelible mark on the nation. The brutal crackdown on peaceful protesters in Birmingham, captured on camera, shocked viewers and highlighted the brutality of segregation. The images of Bloody Sunday in Selma, where marchers were attacked on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, galvanized support for the Voting Rights Act. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, broadcast to millions, inspired a nation to believe in the possibility of change. The media's coverage was instrumental in building national and international support for the movement. Specific journalists and media outlets were crucial in this endeavor. Ethel Payne, known as the First Lady of the Black Press, brought first-hand accounts of the struggle to African American readers and beyond. Her reporting on the realities of segregation and the courage of the activists helped shape the narrative of the movement. Additionally, mainstream outlets like the New York Times and television networks such as CBS played significant roles. CBS's Edward R. Murrow and his colleagues provided crucial coverage that brought the violence and injustice faced by civil rights activists into the public eye. Their reports helped galvanize support across different demographics, proving that the media was a powerful ally in the fight for civil rights. Next, we'll cover the legacy of the movement, reflecting on its long-term impacts and ongoing struggles. The achievements of the civil rights movement transformed American society, leading to significant legal and social changes. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were monumental victories, but the movement's legacy extends far beyond these laws. The movement paved the way for greater racial equality and inspired subsequent struggles for justice. It opened doors for African Americans in education, employment, and politics. The election of Barack Obama as the first African American president in 2008 was a testament to the progress made. The movement also inspired other marginalized groups to fight for their rights, including the women's rights movement, LGBTQ+ rights, and more. Despite the significant progress, the struggle for civil rights continues. Issues like police brutality, mass incarceration, and systemic racism still plague American society. Movements like Black Lives Matter have risen to address these issues, carrying forward the legacy of the civil rights movement. The fight for equality is ongoing, and the lessons of the past remain as relevant as ever. The influence of the civil rights movement extended far beyond the borders of the United States, inspiring human rights movements across the globe. The struggle for racial equality and justice resonated with people facing oppression and discrimination worldwide. The principles of equality and justice championed by the civil rights movement became a beacon for international human rights advocates. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela and the anti-apartheid movement drew strength from the American struggle, using it as a model for their own fight against racial segregation. Similarly, the global feminist movement and LGBTQ+ rights campaigns found inspiration in the fight for civil rights, pushing for greater equality and justice worldwide. Global solidarity movements and human rights organizations have continued to draw lessons from the American experience, advocating for justice and equality in diverse contexts. The legacy of the civil rights movement lives on in the ongoing global struggle for human rights, serving as a powerful reminder of the impact one movement can have on the world. Next, we'll cover cultural impact.
The civil rights movement had a profound impact on American culture, influencing music, art, literature, and sports. Artists like Nina Simone, Bob Dylan, and Sam Cooke created powerful protest songs that became anthems of the movement. Visual artists used their work to highlight social injustices and celebrate Black identity. Literature, from James Baldwin's essays to Maya Angelou's poetry, captured the emotional and intellectual spirit of the era. In sports, figures like Muhammad Ali and Jackie Robinson used their platforms to speak out against racism and advocate for change. Ali's refusal to be drafted into the Vietnam War, citing his opposition to racial injustice, and Robinson's pioneering integration of Major League Baseball were bold statements that resonated far beyond the playing fields, influencing public perception and advancing the fight for equality.
Finally, we'll wrap up with the conclusion, summarizing the key points. The American Civil Rights Movement was more than a series of events. It was a profound struggle for human dignity and justice. Its leaders, both famous and unsung, faced incredible obstacles, but forged a path toward a more equitable society. As we conclude our journey, remember that the fight for civil rights is not just about remembering the past, but about continuing to advance the principles of equality and justice in our own time. We hope you found this exploration of the American Civil Rights Movement enlightening and inspiring. Now, we want to hear from you. What did you find most surprising or impactful about this journey through history? Comment below with your thoughts and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next. Your feedback helps us bring more stories that matter to you.